Good morning, everyone. Welcome. It is FPC Radio Live, and it is Tuesday, the 20th of February. And hey, yesterday we kind of went off the beaten path and we started talking about some basketball. We complained about the NBA All-Star Game and kind of piled on that. Everyone was kind of complaining about the All-Star Game, and rightfully so, John. I mean, I don't think people are out of line. I mean, I think for the most part, I don't think I saw any positive spin on what we saw this weekend, other than Bucks fans hoping that this is a sort of a spark for Dame Lillard. But other than that, it was kind of pretty, it's what you would expect. I saw some people echoing sort of the same sort of line that you were saying yesterday about LeBron. Not necessarily, I mean, they went a little overboard saying he ruined it, but, his decision not to participate kind of correlates with the tick down from it being an event with the actual best players as opposed to like we were talking about yesterday, basically a D-League guy. So anyways, we're not going to do that today. Enough NBA All-Star talk, John. I want to talk NFL free agents because, well, March 11th, what? Quick math in my head, 20 days from now. Look at that. How good is that? That's math, right? Right on schedule. I didn't even have to have a calculator for that.
And you remembered it's leap year, so there's
yes.
9 days left in February, so that's pretty
very
good.
key. Very key. See,
Yep.
I'm on top of it. I haven't even had my coffee yet today, John. But
my uncle was born February 29th, 1908.
Oof.
That's old, and I had 08, but yeah, he's a leap year baby.
Oh man, that's I look, far be it for me to try to explain the Gregorian calendar and how it works, but I do believe that some I don't know if this is true, and maybe I should check this. This might be an example of me just believing something I saw on Twitter. But I think someone said that if you just add a 13th month, then every day or every month would be like 28 days. Like that would be like more aesthetically pleasing for me, to be honest with you. Just 28 days.
So every month would be 4 weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
That need symmetry.
Yeah, well, that's in symmetry. It's even, start on Sunday or start on Monday, end on Sunday, whatever hell you want to do. But no, okay, we're not gonna start talking about the history of calendars.
Change everything else, so go right ahead and do it again.
Yeah. Hey.
So that actually, I mean, you're talking about 4 weeks every month times 13. There's your 52 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Just to find a name for the month, and then
Smarch.
That would be interesting.
we could take it from The Simpsons. One of my favorite little bits is it's one of those the Halloween specials, one of the Treehouse of Horror specials. They go in and they're going to some school council meeting or whatever about the misprint calendars because they have a 13th month of March, or Smarch rather, and there's a thermostat on the wall. And there's a little note that says "Don't touch" with a little dash, and it says Willie. And Homer reads it as "Don't touch Willie." He's like, "Good advice." And he turns the thermostat up, and it burns Willie, and then it's basically a play on Nightmare on Elm Street. So, yeah,
I'm thinking Janine Garofalo. When they talk about brunch, why is there brunch? Is there supper? Lunch and supper combined? Why not?
Oh yeah. Good. See, good Seinfeld reference. I like it. So
yeah, it always is.
Anyway, so NFL free agency, new league year, March 11th. Obviously, we have there's going to be a lot of player movement. We're seeing some players preemptively release some of their veterans. Lawrence Guy was released by the Patriots. Adrian Phillips, I believe, as well. Guys that can now immediately go and sign elsewhere, kind of get a jump start on free agency. But there are going to be some pretty big names out there, and some of the word on the street, so to speak, John, is that Mike Evans and the Bucks aren't necessarily close, and that's something worth monitoring because you look at the landscape of who's some of the top free agents in this upcoming offseason, and well, wide receiver wise, I mean, Mike Evans, 13 touchdowns last year. John, he led the league in touchdown passes or touchdown receptions last year. I knew he had a lot, but I didn't realize.
Amazing.
Yeah, I didn't realize he led the league. He actually, it's funny, and again, it's part of it is situationally and kind of what they were working with in the previous 3 seasons, but he had more yards and more touchdowns. I'm sorry, more yards and more receptions in any of the this past season than he had in any of the 3 seasons with Tom Brady. The big difference is first 2 seasons with Tom Brady, he had 14 and 13 touchdowns respectively. So there were a lot of touchdowns scored, and of course, we know Brady spreads the ball out. You had guys like Gronk and Antonio Brown around. So there's reasons for that. But it was impressive for a guy who I thought kind of, again, maybe perception in this case isn't always reality, but it felt like he got off to a little bit of a sluggish start. He had a couple, look, he has drop issues sometimes, which can, for every 10 great catches, one drop, pretty much outweighs it all. And Braden kind of got a little ahead of me here, but looking at a team like Houston and saying, hey, if Mike Evans isn't going to go back to Tampa, which I think going into the offseason, I felt was kind of a stretch, even though last year, it was kind of, he bet on himself. And I thought, well, maybe he did too well for Tampa to re-sign him. You know what I mean? Like, I think Tampa expected him to produce, but maybe they thought he was going to take a little bit of a step back because, well, I mean, he's 30 years old, 10 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. He can't possibly keep this up, but he's looking like he's going to make a nice penny from someone, and it might not be the Bucs. So, like I said, as Braden brought up, the Texans look like a key fit. And, Braden brings up Kansas City, and we're seeing the same thing that, we saw with the Patriots fans and media, of course, as well. Every player, obviously, I think is you ideally want to see them with the best quarterback, but Kansas City is Kansas City because they don't do that, John. They're not going to go shell out a huge contract to a 30-year-old wide receiver, especially when you have guys like Rashid Rice. And I know, the critique was the wide receivers, but we saw Rice come on along the end. Eventually you're going to have to address the tight end position because Travis Kelce was phenomenal in the playoffs, but you could see a little bit of a physical decline, and I hate using the word decline because that implies something bad. But I mean, the guy's 34 years old, John. Like he can only physically do what he's doing for so long before you start regressing a little bit. And I thought you saw that a tad bit this year. Maybe we see it a little bit more next year. But the Chiefs aren't going to overreact and go out and spend a bunch of money on Mike Evans and T. Higgins, because that's not what teams that have a lot of success do. How often did the Patriots go out and shell out the most money for the big name wide receiver free agent?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of signing the big free agent wide receiver, or really any position, because a lot of those players are 30, 31 years old. Maybe they're on the downslide. They're also players that particular team has decided to move on from. I'm a bigger fan of trading for a guy that's in his prime.
Right.
We saw they had on that Tyreek Hill and incredibly successful at their new post. So again, the free agent part of it is you don't have to give compensation to those teams, whereas you have to trade draft capital to get Devontae Adams or Tyree, A.J. Brown, for that matter, who was really young when he got traded from Tennessee to Philadelphia. Now, what do the Buccaneers do, though? Okay, so now Baker Mayfield is looking for a sizable increase. If you sign him, you then take away his favorite target. So exactly what I think Baker Mayfield needs help home to produce, right?
Yeah.
So that's a tough situation for the Buccaneers. Okay, let's give Baker Mayfield a 2-year, $50 million deal, but let the wide receiver walk that he's great rapport with. Well, now Baker's not going to be the same quarterback as he was in 2023.
And I believe he's looking more for a 375. So, 250 might not even do it, and good for Baker. He but I said this during the season. I was like, and I was cautioning Bucs fans. I'm like, don't, it's nice what he's doing. He surprised me. He certainly exceeded my expectations. But don't pay for past performance, because I don't think, I think you got the absolute most you're going to get out of Baker Mayfield. I mean, that's just how I feel. So do I think he should get a big contract? Absolutely, because I'm very pro, players getting what they should get, and there's plenty of money to go around, John. So I'm not losing sleep over that. But from a pragmatic standpoint, from a team building standpoint, it's going to set you back, John. And maybe, and as crazy as it sounds, it's not going to happen. I can tell you this right now, because either one of those two or both of them are going to end up being back with Tampa Bay. Maybe it's best just to move on from both. I mean, honestly, John, like, what are they going to do next year that's going to be better than squeaking into the playoffs in a watered down division?
Right. I mean, both those guys, no, they really weren't divisional round. They beat Philadelphia, but at that point, anybody was going to beat Philadelphia in the wild card round. So maybe in the draft, you look at a wide receiver that you can start to build around, because the wide receiver very deep in this year's draft. It generally is. You can find outstanding wide receivers in the second, third, sometimes fourth round. So hopefully you trust your scouting department that they're going to find someone there. The quarterback position is a little bit more difficult if Baker Mayfield moves on than with it. It's kind of who has been there for 4 years and really hasn't shown that he's going to be the next starting quarterback of the Buccaneers. Mac Jones might be available, but I think Baker has proven to be better than Mac Jones. That's going to be Tampa Bay is going to have to answer.
Yeah, and look, I mean, that's a difficult situation to be in if you're Tampa Bay. And look, I think they have a good front office. I think Jason Licht is a very good general manager. He's good at recognizing talent in the draft. But at a having a great quarterback makes up for a lot of things. And obviously for 3 years they had that. And like I said, Baker was phenomenal, relative to what you expect from him. But just I like I said, I think his best effort gave you essentially Tom Brady's worst season. And I know that's just bare bonesing it and talking statistically, but I think when you think about it, it's like, yeah, I mean, like I said, you're going to pay a guy like that. You're going to pay a guy like Baker based on that past season. I just don't think you're going to get it again. And that's the issue. Do the Bucs now say, well, let's just pay Mike Evans and find the next quarterback? Or are they kind of stuck in a situation where they weren't quite bad enough last year to justify blowing it up, but they're not quite good enough to really make a big swing if they have to pay these guys? You know what I mean? Like, they're kind of just in no man's land. And it's, a lot of teams find themselves there.
That's a tough spot to be, right? I mean, like, I thought before the season started that they'd be in contention the first overall pick.
Yeah, I thought 4 or 5 wins at the most.
Exactly. I thought they'd finish last in the South. Contention maybe for, Caleb Williams or Drake May, or turned out Jaden Daniels. Those 3 guys should go 1, 2, 3 in the upcoming draft. I thought they'd be in play for one of those 3 quarterbacks, and here they are. They made the playoffs. They were so they're 20. Hold on the second tier of quarterbacks that maybe some will be available there to draft a quarterback in that spot. But, can you trust the rookie? Is he going to step in and be a competent quarterback? It doesn't happen all the time. It happened with CJ, an exception, not the norm. Yeah, it's a tough spot for them to be in because 9-8, winning a wild card game, that's nice. But, if you want to be better, that's a little bit more than that. So, right now, obviously, $25 million a year for a quarterback to me is a bargain, especially if he plays the way Baker played last year. The big question is Baker going to play like that again?
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's no knock on Baker. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe that's how you interpret it, but I just don't think he will. And, again, Mike Evans, and this is a caution for any team that goes out and signed him. He's 30 years old, and I'm not saying he had a phenomenal season last year. It's just at a certain point, John, it's like you're rolling the dice when you get up in age with some of these guys, and it could burn you. It could burn you, but for a team, but and then there's situations though, John, that like some team that has, maybe they have a young quarterback, they just need to find him a trustworthy target, and Mike Evans could be that guy. I know, like I said, he has some drop issues, but he's a big target that can make big plays, and it can build a lot of confidence for a young quarterback. And I know, Braden already mentioned, Houston as a landing spot, and then that would be nice. He would be a great fit with the guys that they have in CJ Stroud. So, for Houston, he's much more valuable and much more worth the risk to pay, as opposed to a team that is maybe clinging on some like outside chance that they might make the playoffs and maybe make a little bit of noise. It's like I said, their ceiling is so low. I feel like it might, again, it would never happen. It would never happen. But I feel like it would be almost like smarter for them to just move on and cut bait and just retool everything, So, but that's me. That's why I'm not a GM.
Could be in play for them. No, it could be in play for them. It's a tough decision that they're going to have to make. And going to Houston would be great for him, because I think they'd be with a better quarterback, a better group of wide receivers, an offensive coordinator who's remained there. Now, their offensive coordinator in Tampa has moved on and become the head coach of Carolina.
Yeah.
And he did an outstanding job with the Buccaneers a year ago. Canales, I believe, is his last name. So, now you've got to find a new offensive coordinator, see how that works. Whereas if you go to Houston, you got Bobby Slowick, who's, remained coordinator. So, it would be on that just by winning that division last year. I did Houston, but now we can kind of see why Houston did it, because the quarterback played at such a high level. Not that Baker didn't, but I think Houston's in a better spot right now than Tampa.
Well, I mean, it's yeah. I mean, Baker did. He played well, but it's like we know that it's certainly at this point we can only safely assume that CJ Stroud's ceiling is so much higher. So if you're Mike Evans, like maybe that's the route you take, or maybe loyalty. I don't know, John. I it's interesting. Because I didn't think Mike Evans felt like a guy that was probably going to spend his whole career in Tampa, but I don't know. Never say never. Hey, Tom Brady didn't spend his whole career in New England, so.
Yeah, most players move on at some point. There's very few Larry Fitzgerald on and off the field, but guys that are Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, just
Jerry Rice played in 4 different locations, which kind of blows your mind considering he's the greatest wide receiver ever. Yeah, it happens now.
Well, just wait, just wait until Patrick Mahomes is wearing a Seattle Seahawks jersey in 2033. So remember, I said that. 9 years from now, remember I said that.
Quarterback that played for multiple franchises, whether it's Brady, Montana,
Manning,
absolutely.
Favre.
Rodgers now.
Well,
yeah.
I don't want to say played yet.
He did technically play. He did play.
Yeah, 4 snaps. Okay, fair enough. All right.
So technically, he was a Jet last year. Favre. Elway and Marino were
Unitas
outliers. Absolutely. I mean, how odd do you look at it?
Well, that's what I'm saying. When Mahomes is wearing the Seattle Seahawks jersey, it's going to look weird.
That would be interesting.
But
yeah.
Anyways, that's going to do it for us here today. Nice little quick episode. We'll be back probably on Thursday. Again, we're in off-season mode. Hockey's rolling around, basketball's rolling around. We're getting close to that really, really great time of the year where we have the playoffs and free agency and the NFL draft. So going to be a lot of fun moving forward. So we're excited for it. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll talk to you on Thursday.